The tweezers came out dark and wet. 9 years of specialists, 3 continents, $40 million, and this $2 tool from a medical cabinet solved everything in 30 seconds.
But the woman holding those tweezers wasn't a doctor. She was a housekeeper. And in 60 seconds, she'd either be arrested for saving a child's life or destroy the boy's ear canal trying. Her hand shook so violently she could barely breathe. One wrong move, that's all it would take.
The father was already calling security. The boy was screaming, actually screaming, for the first time in his life. But was it from pain or breakthrough? She didn't know yet. Nobody did. Because what she just pulled from that 9-year-old's ear would expose a medical conspiracy worth millions and destroy everything she thought she understood about trust, power, and who gets to decide what's impossible. Marcus Bellamy's wealth could buy silence from anyone, except his own son.
At Bonds Unspoken, we believe every heartwarming story, whether between humans or their animal companion, deserves to be told and heard. If you agree, please like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you can join us every time another Bond speaks louder than words.
But his son, Ethan, was born into absolute silence. 9 years old, never heard a single sound. Marcus tried everything humanly possible. Mayo Clinic, Berlin, Singapore. Physicians who charge 6 figures just to walk into a room. They performed scans, ran procedures, analyzed every possibility. The answer never changed. Congenital deafness. Nothing can be done. Learn to live with it. One specialist in Berlin actually wrote "hopeless case" in his notes. Marcus saw it reflected in the doctor's computer screen. But Marcus refused to accept it, couldn't accept it, because Ethan was all that remained. His wife, Sophie, bled out 90 seconds after Ethan's first breath. Her blood wouldn't stop. It soaked through 12 hospital blankets while doctors shouted medical codes Marcus didn't understand. She tried speaking something final. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Then silence, just like their son would be. Every morning, Marcus woke reaching for Sophie's side of the bed. Every morning, his hand found only cold sheets. So he did what powerful men do when helpless. He threw money at the problem. $40 million. Jets to Singapore. Suites at the Mayo Clinic. Consultations that cost 6 figures just to hear, "I'm sorry." Every expert delivered identical verdicts. Your son's deafness is genetic, irreversible, beyond medical intervention. You must accept this reality. Accept it. How could any father accept that his boy would live imprisoned in permanent silence? How could he accept that Ethan would never hear, "I'm sorry, your mother isn't here to hold you"? Marcus refused acceptance. He kept searching, kept pouring money, kept praying someone somewhere possessed the answer. He never suspected the answer wasn't coming from someone with credentials. It was coming from someone he'd barely notice, someone about to walk through his doors carrying nothing but faith and debts she couldn't manage. Her name was Elena Cruz, and she had exactly 4 days before her grandfather's hospice care collapsed. The Bellamy estate stretched across 60 acres of wilderness, where frost crept across manicured lawns each morning like slow-moving ghosts. Stone walls the color of storm clouds. Floor-to-ceiling windows that caught morning light in sharp, cold shafts. Magazine-perfect grounds that felt wrong somehow. Staff moved through corridors like ghosts. No conversation. No footsteps louder than whispers. They learned fast. Mr. Bellamy demanded quiet. Marcus spent most evenings locked in his private office, staring at the oil painting mounted above his mahogany desk. Sophie smiled from inside that frame, frozen in time. But if the house was built on silence, why did Ethan keep clawing at his ear like he was trying to dig out sound itself? Elena cruise arrived on a Thursday in late September. The sky hung gray and heavy, the kind of gray that makes breathing feel harder. She stood outside the Bellamy estate's iron gates, gripping her worn bag with both hands, trying to steady her racing pulse. This was it, her final opportunity. Turn back now, or walk through those iron gates and into a world where one mistake could cost her everything. The hinges groaned as they swung open. Too late. Back in the Bronx, her grandfather lay dying in a hospice bed that cost $247 per day. Bills covered Elena's kitchen table 4 inches deep, 4 months overdue. The final notice had arrived yesterday. Pay immediately, or we transfer him Friday. Elena couldn't allow that. Her grandfather raised her after her parents vanished during a border crossing when Elena was 9. Some nights, dinner was nothing but rice and prayer, but he always made sure she ate first. So Elena took this position, housekeeper for a billionaire family. She didn't care about their wealth or status. She just needed the paycheck to keep her grandfather breathing. Mrs. Thornton, the head housekeeper, met her at the entrance. Sharp features, eyes that missed nothing and forgave less.
You're Elena. Yes, ma'am. You'll clean. You'll remain invisible. You'll avoid unnecessary interaction. Mr. Bellamy tolerates no disruptions, especially concerning his son. Elena nodded quickly. I understand completely. Do you? Mrs. Thornton's voice could cut glass. Because the previous girl didn't understand. She lasted 4 days. We found her crying in the laundry room, talking about saving him. Mr. Bellamy had security escort her out. Elena swallowed hard. I'm only here to work, ma'am, nothing else. Mrs. Thornton studied her with suspicious eyes, then gave a curt nod. Follow me. Stay close. Walking through the mansion, Elena kept her look lowered, but she couldn't ignore what surrounded her. The silence felt alive, almost breathing. Other staff members moved like shadows, never speaking, never smiling. Heaviness filled every room, thick as smoke that wouldn't clear. Then she saw him. A small boy sat cross-legged on marble so polished it reflected his face like dark water. Wooden blocks surrounded him in perfect geometric patterns. Triangles within squares, within circles. His small fingers moved with surgical precision. He never looked up, never acknowledged anyone passing. But what took Elena's attention was something else. The way his hand kept drifting to his right ear, touching it briefly without thinking, and the tiny grimace that flickered across his face each time. Elena's breath caught. Miguel, her cousin's face, age 7, before they found the blockage. The same unconscious wince when he touched his ear, the same small grimace. She said nothing, just kept walking. But her heart whispered something she couldn't silence. Pay very close attention to this child. 17 days passed. Elena scrubbed floors, polished windows, changed linens. She stayed invisible like Mrs. Thornton demanded, but she couldn't stop watching Ethan. Every morning followed the same pattern. The boy would settle alone in the conservatory, surrounded by model rockets and jigsaw puzzles. His world stayed small, controlled, isolated. Nobody approached him there. Once, Elena watched Marcus pause at the conservatory doorway for 30 seconds, hand raised to knock on the glass. Then he lowered his hand and walked away without entering. The other servants avoided him entirely. Once, Elena overheard 2 maids whispering in the kitchen. Cursed child, born in blood, raised in silence. You don't touch what God has marked. Superstitious nonsense, but everyone believed it. Elena saw something different. She saw a child drowning in loneliness, a boy who pressed his small palm against windows, watching life happen without him. She noticed how he touched his ear over and over, wincing, and how nobody paid attention. Or maybe they'd stopped noticing long ago, stopped caring because caring hurt too much. One afternoon, Elena was dusting the hallway near the conservatory when she saw him struggling with a model rocket fin. His small fingers couldn't make the piece fit. He tried once, twice, 3 times. His face flushed deep red. His hands started shaking. She shouldn't interfere. Mrs. Thornton's warning echoed clearly.
But before rational thought could stop her, Elena knelt down and gently took the fin. She clicked it into place with one smooth motion. Ethan looked up at her. Their eyes met and held. For one suspended moment, they simply existed together in silence. Then something amazing happened. The tiniest smile touched the corner of his mouth, barely visible, but absolutely real. Elena's heart cracked wide open. She smiled back, offered a small wave. He waved in return, hesitant, hopeful. That night, Elena lay awake thinking about that wave. Such a small gesture, but it meant everything. The next morning, she left something on the floor where Ethan always sat. A folded paper crane made from blue scrap paper. She left before dawn, before he arrived. When she returned to clean that evening, the crane was gone. In its place, a folded paper rocket and a note in shaky handwriting. "Thank you. Can you teach me more?" Elena pressed that note against her chest and closed her eyes tight. She whispered into the emptiness, "God, let we help this boy. Show me the way." She didn't realize yet that God was already answering, and the answer would cost her absolutely everything. Over the following weeks, something shifted between them. They built a secret language. She left him blue foil chocolate on Mondays. He left her drawings of rockets and stars on Fridays. A rhythm, a code nobody else understood. She learned his personal signs, not the formal ones his tutors taught, but the ones he'd invented himself. When he tapped his chest 3 times, he felt happy. When he pointed upward, he was thinking about the moon. When he pressed both palms flat together, he felt safe. And slowly, he started using that last sign whenever she was near. Safe. Elena treasured that more than anything she'd ever had. But how long could their secret language stay secret in a house where everyone was watching? One evening, Mrs. Thornton cornered her in the laundry room. "I've seen you with the boy." Elena's stomach dropped like a stone. "Ma'am, I haven't." Mrs. Thornton's voice could freeze water. "I told you clearly. Mr. Bellamy has strict rules. Staff keeps distance from Ethan. Always. I'm not trying to cause problems. He's just so lonely." "That's not your job." Mrs. Thornton stepped closer. "You're here to clean, not to play mother, not to fix what cannot be fixed." Elena bit down on her tongue. Fix what cannot be fixed. That's what everyone said. Even here, everyone had given up hope. If Mr. Bellamy finds out you've been interfering, you'll be fired at once. The last girl, she's working at a gas station in Newark now. No references. Blacklisted from every agency in the state. Think carefully about that. She walked away, heels clicking against tile like a ticking clock, counting down. That night, Elena sat on her narrow bed, staring at the cracked wall. $247 per day. That's what kept her grandfather alive. This job was the only thing standing between him and a state facility where people died alone, surrounded by strangers. She thought about Ethan, his lonely eyes, his constant pain. She thought about the dark mass she'd glimpsed inside his ear canal. Mrs. Thornton's words echoed again. Fix what cannot be fixed. But what if it could be fixed? What if everyone was tragically wrong? Elena picked up her worn Bible and held it against her heart. "Lord, I don't know what to do. I can't lose this job, but I can't ignore what I'm seeing." She waited in the silence. No answer came right away. Just the crushing weight of a decision she wasn't ready to make. Outside her window, the moon hung low and copper-colored, like an old penny. Inside her chest, 2 choices fought, survival or conscience. Both would cost everything. She didn't realize yet that this war was about to explode, because tomorrow morning everything would shatter. The next morning arrived cold and unnaturally quiet. Elena was mopping the east corridor when she heard it, a soft thud. She froze, mop dripping onto the floor. Then she heard it, a sound so quiet she almost missed it, a child trying not to cry. She followed the sound toward the garden entrance. Ethan was curled into himself on the stone bench, knees pulled tight to his chest, rocking slightly. Both hands clamped against his right ear. His face twisted like someone had driven a nail through his skull. Tears streamed down his cheeks, but his mouth stayed closed, silent crying. Elena dropped the mop and sprinted to him. She fell to her knees, hands trembling violently. "Ethan, Ethan, look at me!" He opened his eyes, red, swollen, drowning in pain. She gently signed, "Your ear. Is it your ear?" He nodded, fresh tears spilling down his face. Elena's chest felt like it was being crushed by invisible hands. "Can I look?" she signed carefully. "I'll be so gentle, I promise you." He hesitated. Raw fear flickered across his young face, memories of doctors and pain written there. But then he leaned forward slowly. Trust. She cradled his head gently in her lap, tilting it toward the morning sunlight. There, deep inside his ear canal, something dark and dense, glistening under the light like wet clay. It moved slightly when Ethan swallowed. Her breath stopped. How had every specialist missed this? How had every expensive scan overlooked something so obvious? Elena's mind raced backward. Miguel, her cousin, deaf for 7 years until a clinic nurse spotted the blockage during a routine exam. 1 5-minute procedure. The next day, Miguel heard rain for the first time and cried. "Ethan," she signed slowly, carefully, "there's something in your ear, something that doesn't belong there." His eyes went impossibly wide. "We need to tell your father," she signed. Panic exploded across his face. His hands moved so frantically the signs blurred together. "No, doctors, hurt, please, no, please." His chest heaved like he couldn't get enough air. His eyes went wild. Elena's heart shattered into pieces. She understood completely. 9 years of specialists. 9 years of procedures that promised everything and delivered nothing. 9 years of pain without relief. She took his small, trembling hands in hers and looked directly into his eyes. "I would never hurt you," she whispered aloud, even though he couldn't hear the words. "Never, I promise." He stared at her. 10 seconds. 20. His breathing slowed. His shoulders dropped half an inch. The fear stayed in his eyes, but something else appeared too. Trust. Then he nodded once. Elena sat with him until the tears dried, until his hand stopped shaking, until color returned to his face. Then she walked back inside, her mind spinning in circles. She knew what she'd seen. She knew exactly what it meant. But what could she possibly do? Tell Marcus? He'd summon more specialists, the same ones who'd somehow missed it for 9 years. Do nothing? Watch this innocent child suffer in silence while something fixable destroyed his world? She'd already watched one child die from something fixable. Never again. That night, Elena didn't sleep at all. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her grandfather's voice echoing through her memories. God doesn't always send help wrapped in fancy packages, mija. Sometimes he sends it through people with nothing but willing hands and brave hearts. Elena closed her eyes. Her hands were willing, but was she brave enough to actually use them? 3 days, 72 hours. Elena didn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that dark mass and Ethan's silent tears. On the 3rd night, she stopped fighting the decision and started preparing for it. She sat on the edge of her bed, Bible open across her lap. But the words blurred together.
All she could see was Miguel's face after he heard rain. All she could feel was Ethan's small, trusting nod. "Lord," she whispered, voice cracking like thin ice. "What do you want from me?" Silence. Just the wall clock ticking, marking time passing. Elena closed the Bible and stood, walked to the window. The moon hung heavy outside, spilling silver light across the grounds. Somewhere in this mansion, a boy was sleeping in pain and silence, and she was the only person who'd truly seen him. "God," she breathed, "I'm so scared. But if this is what you're asking of me?" Her voice trailed into nothing. She thought of her grandfather's words again. "The Lord doesn't call the equipped, mija. He equips the called." Elena wiped her eyes, made her decision. Tomorrow, if Ethan showed pain again, she would act. She'd either save his hearing or lose everything trying. There was no third option left. 23 hours later, it happened. Marcus was in Boston. The house felt emptier than usual. Elena was folding the last towel in the upstairs hallway when she heard it. A heavy thump from the west hall. Then nothing. Then a sound like choking. She ran toward the sound, feet barely touching the floor. Ethan lay crumpled against the mahogany baseboard, knees pulled to chest, head took down. Both hands pressed flat against his right ear. His small body shook. Tears streamed down his face, silent, invisible suffering. Elena dropped to her knees beside him. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm here." She cradled his head gently in her lap, tilting it toward the hallway's lamp's light. The dark mass was clearly visible now, swollen, pressing hard against his ear canal, angry and inflamed. Her hands trembled violently. This was it, the moment, the decision made real. She reached into her pocket. The tweezers she'd stolen 3 days ago sat cold against her palm. Her breath came in short, desperate bursts. "Lord," she whispered, "guide my hands. Please, please guide my hands." Ethan looked up at her through his tears, eyes wide, scared, but somehow still trusting. "I won't hurt you," she signed with one shaking hand. "I promise on everything I am." He nodded slowly, surrendering to faith. Elena's hand shook so violently she had to grip her wrist with her other hand to steady it. "Lord, guide my hands, please." She moved the tweezers into his ear canal, slowly, centimeter by centimeter. There, she felt it, dense, slick. She hooked the edge gently, pulled. Resistance. Ethan whimpered. She froze, heart hammering like it would burst through her chest. "I'm sorry, baby. 10 more seconds." She pulled again, slower this time, steadier. The resistance broke. Something dark and wet slid free into her palm. Years of buildup, years of silence. Gone. Ethan gasped, a real gasp, audible, loud. His hand flew to his ear. His head jerked toward the west wall. The grandfather clock. His eyes went wider than physics should allow. He pointed with a trembling finger. His mouth opened. For 9 years, nothing. Then, tick. The word came out broken, rough as gravel, barely audible, but real, absolutely real. Elena's tears fell like rain. "Yes, baby, that's the clock. You can hear it. You can hear." Ethan's entire body trembled. He touched his throat, felt the vibration of his own voice for the first time. His eyes filled with wonder and fear and something else entirely, hope. His mouth opened again. One word, the first real word he'd ever spoken aloud. "Dad." Elena sobbed. She pulled him close, holding him tight as he shook, as sounds flooded his world for the first time in 9 years. The clock's ticking suddenly seemed deafening. Or maybe Elena was just noticing it for the first time too, hearing it the way Ethan heard it, like thunder announcing the end of one world and the birth of another. Ethan clung to her desperately. Then, footsteps, heavy, fast.
Marcus Bellamy filled the doorway, his face drained of all color. His briefcase hit the floor with a crack that made Ethan flinch. Marcus saw his son, saw the blood on Elena's hands, saw the tweezers. "What the hell did you do to him?" Marcus's voice cracked like breaking glass. He shoved Elena aside. She hit the wall hard and grabbed Ethan's shoulders. "Did she hurt you? Tell me what she did." Ethan flinched at the loudness, but then his mouth opened. "Dad, I can hear you." Marcus froze, every muscle in his body locked. "What?" Ethan touched his father's face with trembling fingers. "Your voice, that's your voice." The words came out broken, unpracticed, beautiful. Marcus's legs buckled. Then his eyes found Elena's hands. The blood, the tweezers, the dark mass in her palm. Terror crushed wonder. "Security!" he bellowed. "Now!" 2 guards appeared instantly from nowhere. "Get her away from my son immediately." Elena's heart shattered. "Sir, please listen to me. I didn't hurt him. I helped him. Look." She held out her palm, showing him the blockage like proof of innocence. "This was inside his ear. This is why he couldn't hear anything. I removed it carefully." "You're not a doctor," Marcus roared, face turning red. "You could have killed him. You could have destroyed everything." The guards grabbed Elena's arms roughly. Ethan screamed, actually screamed out loud. "No, don't take her. Leave her alone." The sound of his son's voice, loud, desperate, real, stopped Marcus cold. But the fear was too powerful, too consuming. "Take her to the security office. Call the police immediately." Elena didn't resist. As they dragged her away, she looked back at Ethan one last time. "It's okay," she mouthed silently. "You're going to be okay now." Ethan sobbed, loud, messy, heartbroken sobs, the first sounds of genuine grief he'd ever made. At the hospital, doctors swarmed Ethan. 4 of them taking turns shining lights into his ear, whispering to each other like they discovered alien technology. Marcus paced the sterile hallway outside, mind spinning in chaos. A nurse approached. "Mr. Bellamy, the doctor needs to speak with you, now." Marcus followed her into a small consultation office. Dr. Richardson sat behind the desk, jaw clenched so tight Marcus could see the muscle jumping. He pushed a folder across the desk without speaking. Marcus opened the folder with shaking hands. There, circled in red Sharpie, was a notation in medical handwriting. "Dense foreign obstruction, right ear canal, clearly visible." Below it, different handwriting in blue ink. "Defer treatment. Schedule follow-up consultation plus 4 weeks." Marcus's hands went numb. The folder slipped. Paper scattered across the floor like evidence at a crime scene. "Someone saw this 4 years ago?" Dr. Richardson nodded. "It appears so, but there's no follow-up, no procedure, just monthly consultations for 4 years. The words hit Marcus like a bullet to the chest. They'd known. They'd seen the blockage clearly, and they'd left it there. How many other children were sitting in waiting rooms right now, suffering from incurable conditions that someone could fix in 5 minutes? How many other desperate parents were being bled dry? 4 years! Marcus's voice came out broken. They let my son suffer for 4 years because cured children don't need monthly consultations. The math was simple. 1 procedure meant losing a patient. Ongoing treatment meant keeping one. Dr. Richardson said nothing. His silence was confirmation. Marcus stood abruptly. "Where are you going?" the doctor asked. Marcus didn't answer. He had a housekeeper to find and a lifetime of apologies to make. Elena sat alone in the cold security office, hands folded in her lap, head bowed. She was praying for Ethan, that his hearing would hold, that he'd finally hear someone say, "I love you," out loud. The door opened. Marcus Bellamy stood there, but he wasn't the same man from an hour ago. His eyes were red and swollen,
His face looked shattered, broken. Elena. Her name came out soft, reverent. She stood. "Mr. Bellamy, I can explain." "Don't." He walked toward her slowly. "Don't explain. Don't apologize. Just listen." He stopped in front of her. Then Marcus Bellamy, who commanded boardrooms and closed billion-dollar deals without flinching, dropped to his knees on the concrete floor hard enough that Elena heard the crack. "I'm sorry," he whispered, voice cracking. "I'm so incredibly sorry." Elena's breath caught in her throat. "I paid $40 million to specialists who saw dollar signs instead of a child. And the one person who actually looked at my son, I paid her minimum wage to scrub toilets." He looked up at her, tears streaming. "You saw him when I didn't. You noticed when I was too blind to look." Elena's own tears fell. "I just loved him, sir. That's all I did." Marcus shook his head. "No, that's everything. That's the only thing that mattered." He stood slowly, unsteadily. "I've spent 9 years trying to buy a miracle from the world's best doctors, and God sent one through the woman I hired to clean my floors." Elena wiped her eyes. "God uses the willing, Mr. Bellamy, not the qualified. That's what my grandfather always taught me." Marcus nodded. He was right. He was completely right. They walked back to Ethan's hospital room together, side by side. The boy sat cross-legged on the hospital bed, oversized headphones covering his ears. His eyes were closed. Tears ran down his cheeks. He was smiling wider than Elena had ever seen. Mozart's Requiem played so loud she could hear it from the doorway. When he saw them enter, he pulled off the headphones quickly and ran straight to Elena. He wrapped his thin arms around her waist and held on tight. "Thank you," he said clearly. His voice was rough, unpracticed, absolutely beautiful. Elena knelt down and held him close. "You were always worth hearing, sweetheart. Always. Every single sound you make matters." Ethan pulled back and looked at his father with wide eyes. "Dad, I can hear your heart. It's beating really fast." Marcus dropped to his knees and pulled his son into his arms, holding him like he'd never let go again. For the first time in 9 years, Ethan heard his father cry, heard the sound of love and regret and overwhelming gratitude mixed together. And Elena, standing quietly beside them both, finally allowed herself to breathe fully. 3 months later, Elena stood in the Bellamy library wearing professional clothes Marcus had insisted she'd accept. Her title was officially Educational Companion, but really she was family. Marcus had paid every cent of her grandfather's hospice care. He'd insisted, wouldn't hear arguments. But the real payment came every morning when Ethan would find her, press his palm flat to his chest 3 times, the sign for happy. Then say out loud, "I can hear the birds outside. Want to listen with me?" And Elena would follow him to the window, where they'd stand in comfortable silence, listening to a world Ethan was still discovering, a world he almost never got to hear. All because someone with no credentials and nothing to lose loved him enough to try. And sometimes, that's all miracles really need.
If stories like this touch your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Bonds Unspoken. Every click helps us share more incredible moments that celebrate the bond between humans and animals. And be sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that reminds us what true loyalty feels like.